Lifestealer pick?
No, I don't think you are. Of course, up against a Doom, not only is his strength going to work against him, but he has 0 armor to start off the game, so that Lifestealer doesn't need to worry about some kind of high armor hero, which will counter him out. The one thing I do have a problem with DLS is it's not really a meta. I don't know what kind of build you're going to go for with this Lifestealer to make it useful. Like, I'd say this time around, you would maybe want the Deso. Unless you're going for like maybe a last pick TA for RR, you might want to go that Deso build in the Lifestealer just to really be able to take down those objectives. You go for the Queen of Pain pick now, good to see. But if I was RR, although that Quap's going to be a little bit of mid lane, I think the best course of action, go TA mid, right? She goes out of control real quick no matter how her lane goes. Go Deso, Blink BKB, and then you can just run over the game.
Yeah, just set the tempo. Yeah, I think that gives you a lot of potency as well for, say, the Infest Bomb.
Right.
Just having that instant damage out to break someone down would be really good. They go into Witch Doctor, which is telling us this is actually a core chat. So that is the KYXY chant we're going to be seeing out here, I think, and there is potency with that, right? Like the early farm, the rush into Guardian Greaves, the rush into the Dominator, and maybe even Necronomicon, if you wanted to farm a bit more. It does tie into a great push potential. Witch Doctor is great sustain, so you are starting to bulk up your entire team. It's really that last pick for RR that needs to bring some damage out, because this is sort of lacking in really tight control, sort of lacking in maybe bursting down some of these bigger heroes. The Quap, for example, as long as you don't get silenced, should be able to just jump in and out, no problem. So that is a point of concern for RR. We'll see how they do close it out. I think their draft is super fast, though. Like, this is scary fast for RR. If they start pushing out those tier 1s, it's going to be hard for T1 to actually find some space, because those towers will melt fast if RR is given that opportunity.
Yeah. I do like it here on T1. Like, you do have the Quap and Grimstroke and the Stroke of Fate and Sonic Wave, the of the Chen. They generally will melt pretty quick. I like the T1 ban the TA because I think that was going to be the pick to make here for our so that was definitely a very smart ban out there from T1. And now it just begs the question, what else can you run? What takes the TA instead and will still do the same job?
It's a bit tricky. I think one Alacrity favorites, maybe the SF. The matchup isn't great. I think you are going to be really pushing yourself if you take the SF into, say, a clock. Like, you get hooked, you're pretty much dead. Yeah. But if you did want to play tempo, you would really have to play perfectly for Alacrity. It would fit in for that speedo. It's just you have to ride through a bit of a rough laning phase, and you'd always have to worry about that clockwork, but it does give them that pace. Another option would be maybe the Storm. You're going to be always worried about the Doom, but Lifestealer Infest Bomb target if you wanted. I just don't. It's really iffy against Doom.
I'm not sure. I mean, you could just go for a safe pick as well, like the Lina, right? Like, you just you're up against the Quap mid. Just try to secure the lane. Guess I should point out DP is not banned, so Death Prophet is there. But, okay. All right. I did forget that Alacrity does play this. As well is I forgot that every single team usually last bans Meepo up against the side of R.
Oh yeah.
Because of this. Boy. This time they banned the TA because that was the pick to ban. But Meepo comes out and I look forward to it. I really do.
Oh yeah. It's great. I think there's a lot of issues that come out now for T1. Say the Meepos there, you get the soulbind off. If you just soulbind 2 Meepos, Meepo's probably not going to care. That's going to enable the other heroes to just run around. And as long as the Doom's not applied, you're still pumping out your damage. So there's a lot there to consider. T1, they are geared up to actually punish that Meepo pretty well. Pangolier, Queen of Pain, lots of AoE damage. So Alacrity has to be a bit careful with how far forward he gets. But there is a lot of potential there as well. Good control for the Queen of Pain. We're actually seeing a bit of a shakeup. It's Miracle on the Quap, and IYD in the Pango. So it's a pause 1 quap. That's not something we've seen just yet, but
Yeah,
we'll see just how much. No.
We don't actually have a proper pause 1. That's I didn't even realize. We don't actually. What's even worse is Miracle doesn't have the Arcana.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Very disappointing. I swear Miracle has the levels though. I swear he does. I
He
took a peek.
probably hasn't equipped it.
Yeah,
That's
I think he
people
forgot.
always forget to equip the damn thing.
Oh boy. Still, gonna be interesting to see. This is very different from both sides. Right? RR, they got to pick that Meepo last, but their lineup's in a very tight timer. T1, they are geared up to fight that Meepo, but they don't have the best scaling cores. So there's a timer on both sides, and it's gonna be really interesting to see who hits their stride first.
True. That Meepo scares me though. I agree that you have ways to deal with it, but it's still a Meepo. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop it from just farming out of control. I like the fact that they at least throw the Quap in the safe lane, so because Meepo versus Queen of Pain obviously doesn't really favor Quap very much because you have them, which can be very problematic for that Queen of Pain. Pango will have a better time. I'm not sure. We'll see how Alacrity goes. We'll have to keep a close eye on him. If he does get the wants, obviously they're going to roll over T1 with this draft that they have. I mean, they have the Chen, they have the Earth Spirit, they have everything.
Yeah, they really do it. It's just down to how they execute. Man, it's gonna be fascinating to see. I still am disappointed with this Quap. I have to say, Miracle. Kind of disappointing. It's I'm gonna check. No, he doesn't have levels. No, Miracle. Oh, you should have given it to IYD and swap. Although I'm not sure if you can actually still swap now.
No, he's at 1,000.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the one in front.
Yeah.
IYD is the only person that has it.
Oh, that's a shame. That means if RR picks it, we already know not to expect Mike. It's not. Yeah. That's not how it's supposed to be today.
No, it is not, John. No, it is not. These teams don't care about how we feel, though. Very, very selfish.
30 seconds to battle.
T1 gonna try and get a bit aggressive here early on. Paulson's gonna place that nice ward down to block the large gap. Kind of intriguing, right? Because you don't necessarily want to block that large gap if you're T1, because you're going to be using it, but yeah, I suppose you can just block your creep wave with the cogs. We've seen that many times.
Battle begins.
We'll see how it pans out.
Maybe they were expecting a Chen up top, so they block the camp so you can't get the big creep easily. But
Yeah,
of course,
fair.
it's a flame Chen. I mean, I know it's a strange one, but that's the only real reason I could think about. Wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's alright. We'll still do a game plan is here for T1. For now, it looks like they're going to try and run a tri-lane top. Because mid lane, we do see Alacrity. He's going to be there up against In Your Dream. Oh, KYXY will TP top. So they do scout this out early on. They do essentially block one of the creep camps he could have taken. That is the large camp, of course. So heads up play from T1. Will they keep up the tri-lane though?
No. It's not really a tri-lane you want to maintain. All these heroes really want EXP. We've seen a support clock fall behind from forcing control out, so just spreading that experience growth is really to your best situation here.
They can really shut down this Mako. Your Dream can farm nicely, but not really about that. You don't really have the heroes to lock down the jungle here, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
You've got Grimstroke Plot can roam around the jungle, sure. But once you've got enough levels up on that Miko, he won't care about the clock anyway.
No. It's in a bit of an early timer where T1 has to play against that Meepo if they want to punish it, and it's already a really good start for Alacrity. 3 last hits ahead. has a slight EXP lead as well, and once he hits that point where he does have the DWS, then it gets harder to fight against him with that added damage.
Hustler trying to harass our Joe Cam a little bit on that Grimstroke. See, drawn that life, still having a great old time. Brev did go for one of the ring of protections. Still only really sitting at 3 armor for himself, so he's very susceptible to taking a lot of harass out from Drew.
Where are you watching? That's how it's done.
But he's just going to focus on his own farm for now. That's all he can do. Just trying to get that level 6 so you're online with the Soul Bite and the Double Doom.
It's the best you can really hope for considering how Doom does level nowadays. You don't tend to go for the Infernal Blade. That means you're just not going to be able to punish Drew too much. You can't really trade either. So it's just going to be that passive lane where both sides will just farm up. Although...
Whoa, we have a lot of lag going on there. I felt that one. Yeah, Drew asks, lag? Yes. Yes, there's definitely lag.
Oh. Surprising, I actually didn't feel that one. I'm immune today, Mike, it looks like.
It's always good.
I mean, I did pay for it for the day, but...
Yeah, it makes me feel like you're one streaming, not me, but... yeah, might be a bit too much work for you, John, I'm not sure.
Probably is, Mike, you know me. It's not quite up my alley, not there. Still, looks like we are good to go. So, unfortunate Hustler, no roll in, and forever. Fine.
Still think Zachary farming too good though. Like 19 last hits, 1's an eye on the paper. In your dream, trying to pressure a little bit with that swashbuckle, but not really doing that well. They may feel like they can only do it in the mid game, but now Snare's coming out with boosts as well. In your dream, may die? No. They don't actually go for the ransack, which would have given him enough damage, but it's also fine. Like, that's just gonna happen every single time In Your Dream gets close for a creep kill now.
Yeah, and every single time he uses that swashbuckle to farm out, Alacrity will just net up afterwards. There's no way to run. So it is a bit risky for IYD. He's gonna have to juggle around when he decides to clear out the creep wave and has to really be aware of how much more damage Alacrity does now.
Nice courier being killed off there by Miracle. It actually had the brown boots on the courier, and I believe that was actually was it Nuts or KYXY? Either one.
I think it was Nuts.
Okay, well the brown boots are still very valuable, of course, so it's still a great kill for Miracle. He's not farming great though on that Queen of Pain, I'm gonna say. 15 and 3, being forced to TP now, and does go back to his tier 2 tower. Paulson has pulled over the creep wave. He's there to contest on the champ.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky for Miracle. This is the pos one capo.
Paulson, that was a bit risky. He will actually go down to the range creep of KOXY.
Oh
That's
boy.
a shame. Imagine dying to a creep. He'll take another one for himself. There you go, KOXY. Off you go. What an army.
Yeah, they do find the kill onto Nuts. We did see Jokam and IYD commit for that one. So you are freeing up some side lanes here. In fact, Forev a bit vulnerable all alone down bot.
Yeah, he's going to be in big trouble. He does have the Scorched Earth going, and now the Devour as well. Drew is not giving up though. Roll in, will not connect. Forev still running. Drew still not giving up. Stun out. Now the team is hitting Drew. He has to be a little bit careful. He will salve up through it, and that will save his life. He still wants Forev though. Nice forward smash from Hustler, and he will be the one to also take the kill. Forev did make it hard, that's for sure, but he will ultimately go down. But now we have rotations in from T1. Paulson goes in with the comp and the battery assault, and that should mean Hustler dies here. He's really got no way out of this situation and does go down. Drew, can you kill him off? Probably not. He'll be fine.
Yeah, it's a decent punishment coming out from T1. You would have still rather not have lost Forev this rotation does mean you're leaving that Pop all alone, and Miracle actually switches to mid. So you're seeing the lane shakeups. This is giving KYXY a free lane in the Chen, which is not a usual occurrence, but should pay off and gives him EXP, gets him closer to his level 6, does have the Dominator up. So more creeps to come out from our Chen.
To confirm, bot lane going nuts, does dive, and now Hustler rolls in. After Polison, they want to go for the bot first. He does go down. The Hustler has rolled in 8 seconds. It's going to be a bit too long for these earlier levels. They do still get a nice trade though. They're +5 for a +4 clock. You still got the life still just farming great here in RR. All they have to do is maintain this lead for another maybe 10-20 minutes. Not 20 minutes, but just about 10 minutes or so. By that point, you'd be starting to force out objectives. It's really very clear cut and dry here for RR. T1 is still trying to fight here with Drew, but they just can't slow the man down.
Yeah, it's a cause of concern. T1 is much more happy to jump through, but they've left Alacrity alone. So you look at our Miko, he is starting to pull ahead. In fact, all the cores of RR do have a comfy lead over T1. Not massive, but it's a good start for RR. And the biggest point of concern is that Meepo. If you leave it alone for too long, he'll come out of the jungle with an E-Blade and with a blink. It's just going to be able to burst every single hero down.
That he will be. Bot lane forever again getting dived here. Hustler does have roll. Scorch Burst is going forever, going to be opening it up. And now KYXY does rotate it as well. Here comes in your dream, however. He will roll in Thunder straight onto Nuts. Again, the Witch Doctor will die. Now the Infest to try and get out. This is looking really nice for the side of T1. They do end up killing off KYXY as well. The RR just gonna have to back off.
That's not quite the way they wanted that to go. They don't even manage to see the cleanup on Forev, and they lose KYXY. So pretty big trades going the way of T1. Still a lot of space coming out for RR. I mean, this is just a lack of free farming. So yes, T1's applying pressure, but it's not on the hero you really expect them to punish. The Meepo is still having a free time.
It's a problem. Drew is still not dying either. Like, he definitely meant work on this line stealer. Just trying to get this T1 style to go down a little bit. Eventually, he will force Polison to throw towards that top lane for the top and help defend this T1 a little bit. On the brighter side for T1, that last team fight did look pretty nice for them. They can keep that up, they're able to shut down this draft of Reality Rift. For now, they'll just continue to focus on their farm. We'll see in your dream go for that Javelin build on the mid Pango. He's got plenty of bonus damage on that Pangolier. He's not really going to be able to use it too often though. It looks like he is just going to focus on his own farm for now. The side of RR are just going to be biding their time. Waiting for that right moment.
Yeah, I think several things have to come out besides Alacrity finding farm, of course. You look to KYXY, needs the mech to really start having that sustain. They do have the level 6 on the channel, though Nuts breaks out the gank. Be able to take out Nuts. 2 outposts, both going the way of either side. They each get their XP in time. T1 did almost lose on that, but they do get there in the end. Now for again, he's knocked down to bot lane. They do clear him up. He will doom up the Alacrity, but Alacrity is here this time, and now the hammer's gone will help. But Sonic Miracle Alacrity, he's in trouble. He's trying to go back onto Miracle with the stroke of fame. He will connect him. And now T1 looking great again. Hustler is trying to get out of there. Can he roll? Not quite. He is going to go down. Joe Cam on a double, and now Drew, the only one left, still farming, but he is left alone. Well, he is not, because that's all he's got. Hookshot Polison will go through the range. Infest will be there, and the line stealer isn't going to be enough to walk out. Definitely not.
They didn't
Your Ring will have enough damage, and Polison will give him the tip. We're just waiting to farm the creep wave before he goes back, but Polison hit his level 6 timing in that fight.
Yeah, a lot being lost out here for RR. I can get why Alacrity feels the need to play around this early. It's hurting them. You can't afford to have your Nepo die like that. He needs to maintain a net worth lead. And those sets of kills, T1, drag that lead towards their way. Not a massive lead, but a lead nonetheless. And this is rough time for RR. They need to temper back that aggression. Look to Drew. He's trying to finish up a fast armlet into Desolator. He really just wants to play fast, but you need that initial farm. You're not tanky yet. You still don't have the mech on KYXY, so to sustain, it's not as high as it should be. Look for safe tower pushes and try to avoid fights until maybe that omelet. Maybe once that's up, have a lot more leeway, but you need more space for the rest of these heroes first.
They really did rush. Like, they could have waited another 5 minutes or so. There was no need to go that early twice in a row. In fact, they go for a third time, but this one they will get the tier 1 tower. The only problem is their mid tier 1's being pushed in. They can't really afford to lose that because they have a Meepo. So they do come back in and defend that. You want Alacrity to get to that stage where he has an Ethereal Blade up before he starts going back in with the team. Even with Drew, like, he has the armlet on the way now, but he would have wanted that a couple minutes back when he could have actually afforded to farm it. At least now he can try and use that up on mid lane that he's going to be jumping on Hustler. There, he's going to be able to walk away for now. In fact, Hustler is taking so much damage from Nuts. And now Drew will TP in, understanding he can find another kill for the side of Reality Rift, and he does catch out Joecat.
Yeah, that's what RR needed. They just needed to isolate, give their Witch Doctor the space to channel, and they find a nice kill, get a put going down mid.
Clearing up the tree line there to make sure nobody's hiding. That'll be the end of that. It's RR. I'm just going to try and back up. In Your Dream is going to chase down Ken, but a nice little snare there from his own creeps. Still In Your Dream might just try to clear these creeps out as well, and he does get one. So T1 still maintaining a slight advantage on their end of things. Doing okay thus far.
It's he's still applying that pressure here, T1. Reality Rift, they'll have to wait. Alacrity's just about more than halfway through towards that E-Blade. So once that's up, you will have the burst damage, don't quite have the blink. So maybe temper it out until at least the E-Blade here for RR. But T1, you take a look at Forev, he's just rushing straight to the BKB. Really the smart move against a Meepo. Just block all of that burst damage out and give yourself the opportunity to fight back. IYD is inching closer towards his Maelstrom. So again, the damage options starting to come out here for T1. I'll have to be a bit careful just to kills.
Definitely. Nuts will just be there to try and deny off that T1 top tower. Just not that gold away from T1. T1 are still hanging around that top lane. They want to try and get into that dire jungle and deal with KYXY. A huge army though. But In Your Dream, of course, can clear them quite quick with that swashbuckle. KYXY is going to be constantly having to control these very, very carefully. They are still looking towards that Chen to try and make the play, but no, they'll just commit to a D ward and back off. Paulson now may have spotted out Nuts, but can't really jump in while Alacrity's around. They'll continue to just play the farm game. Of course, Miracle is still very behind on the Queen of Pain, so he does need a lot more before he can really be this carry quap that they're looking for. I'm gonna say he's still going a bit of a utility build, going into that Yules, and I don't know if this is necessarily the way to play POS 1 quap, but it's how it is going to be played for now.
Yeah, I can get why. Again, it's all about just dodging out the initial damage the Meepo might throw out. And they have shown us that they do have it within just their tool set to still find the kills. So it's all about just ensuring you live long enough to get that damage out. Later down the line, that's probably when you'd see more offensive options. But for now, I'm going to be looking for just some more utility here.
They do have the Soulbind and Double Doom ready to go, by the way. They are going to try to force in that T1 again. They will be fortified up. Hook shot, Bear is up there from Paulson. Hustler now, roll back in. Comes will be there. The last being there does not really connect with anyone. Hustler is still alive with the Magnetized off, but now that has got his team alive further. Continuing pressing the Magnetize. Death Ward as well. Paulson shoots down for the great Sonic Wave out from Miracle. Now they're on Thunder as well. They still go after Nuts. He somehow is alive. Flatly before the Nepo's in. Nuts is running out of there. In your dream surrounded. Then he comes on that life steal, but they've lost the Lackey. They left him too long. KYXY also going to be in trouble. Now the Doom comes down. KYXY will die. And that life steal just needs to run. But they are on the chase. They have the install there onto Miracle. And he gets an ultra kill on the Quap.
Oh
my goodness.
Yeah, it's not shaping up well for RR. T1, they're coming online. They've got a lot of early heroes, of course. Just the Queen of Pain comes online without too much farm. Pangolier at this point is very hard to deal with. And Forev, it's just the threat of doom. So all these factors are playing against what RR wants to get done. Alacrity getting caught on the edge, just constantly being rolling thundered. And the follow-up from the Grimstroke hurt. He couldn't get his combo off. Just ended up dying. You have to be careful about where you toss this Meepo, because if you don't manage to get that combo, then this pick is just dead in the water. So expect a lot more coming out from Alacrity. Does have the E-Blade. There's at least that.
Being claimed as well to Nuts. The poor Witch Doctor just dying 5 times now on that pos fight. RR will continue to struggle. They do almost have the Death. We just needing that last mythical hammer. Don't even know if that's gonna matter though. Like last team fight, we didn't even see the Soulbind do it.
No.
It's like you won the team fight pretty well. Like there was no contest, and you just didn't even have a double doom. It's just not good news. They're gonna go back in now, trying to get that mid tier 1 tower. Alacrity may try to make the play up for Red, but he might be getting the tank, still they try. They'll roll in, more nets to fly out, but the X-Boy is there. Red still alive, now the X-Boy off. Red does fine. But the Rolling Thunder is there for your dream. Now the Soulbind is locked him in with a coming out from Miracle, and now Drew is down as well. T1's on the chase. KYXY is going to TP. No Paulson. He gets the hook cancellation. He will try and survive, but KYXY is going to die. And Nuts, waiting to get chased down by the creepy as well. It starts up. It's going to be 4 more going down. Just like the last team fight, the only guy to survive is going to be Hustler.
That is this. Not the way a Meepo draft should be running. You're falling behind with this Meepo. Alacrity is just being controlled up way too hard. They need to stop IYD from getting the Rolling Thunder off. It's ruining Alacrity. He cannot cast his spells. The follow-up from the Grimstroke just ensures that nothing can happen, and there needs to be something done here. Oh man, Alacrity even misses the TP out with a poof, so just things not lining up here quite yet for Reality Rift. They need to maybe if they want to find kills, they need to smoke up. Just find pickoffs. They can't take this bigger team fight. Just way too much from T1.
Precious on my wrist rewarded.
T1. We made the comment earlier, they don't really have a pause. Doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
Miracle's going to be working towards that Aghanim set drop next. And once you've got the Ags up, you kind of do become somewhat of a safe lane, carry in some sense, right? Because it's so spammable, that Sonic Wave.
Yeah, it's the added damage as well just really hurts the Meepo, and we've seen this time and again where Alacrity just dies. So a lot of that farm is on Alacrity as well. That's all that's keeping them tied up here. The Desolator on Drew. So there is more damage on our Lifestealer, and we used to see it before, right? The Lifestealer get the rough start, but once you hit 20-25, it can come out in the second power spike. That's just a very long time for that to come out. So I don't know if RR will be able to stall the game out. It doesn't look likely. This is how T1's going.
They don't get it. The BKB is up. Nut's still trying to get the death forward channel. Nut's probably going to be dead here. Alacrity does barely get away. They able to secure this good shot. Now Hustler, they should have seen him roll away. No, apparently they didn't. He does get away with his life.
Yeah.
Well, Forever does end up dying sometime. How did Forever die?
Yeah, I wish I saw how. I think he might have just gotten a stray right click somewhere. I mean, he had the BKB, so it couldn't have been Maledict. Or maybe the BKB faded right as Maledict was about to. Still, a decent pickup for RR. Uses up a charge as well, but T1 knowing there's nothing, they smoke up, and it's going to be risky here for RR to hang around.
Yeah, you've also got the Ags now up on the Pango, so he is just that much worse to play against. Yeah, Drew's gonna die. He does arm the toggle, but can he get out? No. Dodge on the Sonic Wave. With the Infest, Drew's still running. Nut is there to help out, and Drew does get out in time. Paulson still trying to chase, but just can't get there. Man, that was a close, that was a very close call, but now Alacrity gonna try and go on the Miracle. Luke will be there. Paulson trying to push it back with the Cox, and then you're going to the still control all these meatballs up, and Alacrity, he's gonna die again. Now KYXY being chased up by Red. He's probably not gonna get out this one, so he's gonna connect, and now the Soul Bind. Not channel to Death Ward. It means nothing. In your dream is just cleaning up on this Pango now.
Hustler up top, he got caught out too.
Uh-oh. Paulson did commit the hook shot though, he won't really be able to catch Hustler again. On the bright side for RR, you can't really push very quickly. You don't really have that kind of lineup on T1. So even though they continue to get these big team wipes going, they're not necessarily getting objectives.
That's true. The map is still fairly secure for Reality Rift, although there are some really good boards here from T1 to watch the farming spots, but they hold on to the objectives, so they're not losing too much ground. It's really becoming an issue for Alacrity. He just cannot fight. They need to pin out IYD first, somehow. They just need to take that Pangolier out of the equation, because if not, Alacrity just can't get the damage off. He couldn't even get the shotgun off. Like, he was on Miracle, he couldn't use it because the Yules came out and he got controlled. So again, all this investment on Meepo, it's not really paying off just yet for RR. They need to find a way to control these fights, and look at T1, they smoke up again.
Alright, about that time. Where they're going to run to first. Hustler will be able to roll out. They seem to be aware this is happening, but it's a great rocket flip. Not Paulson. They understood the rest of the Colt just trying to combat it, but the clockwork's too tanky. The Meatball's doing too damage. In your dream now, one Thunder with the Soul Bind and the double Thunder out as well. They're going to try and run away. There is going to be the Sonic Wave though from Miracle coming in, and now, will they get a double? Oh boy, it's just a team wipe again. It's just not even close.
It's not. It's looking like a very clean game from T1. They're making this draft work, and RR, I mean, they got that last pick Meepo. It's not doing anything. It's Alacrity's 1-5. He's just not had impact. And sure, T1 pushes slowly, and that's a weakness of this draft. It doesn't matter when RR just can't find farm on the map anyway, because of this aggression. Just playing really clean. RR, they've got to find a way back in here. You've got Drew still keeping up in farm. Maybe you start to pin your hopes onto the life stealer. Maybe you start to remove some of that dependency onto Meepo. It's time to give that space away towards Drew. He just needs to try to find items here. He's going for the S and Y. Like, there's not much space to farm, I get it, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to give him more presence in these fights.
I don't think so. He's getting tired, he's getting disarmed, getting hookshot by the Paulson clock. Paulson's going for a Crimson Guard as well now, by the way. He just like casually on a pulse 4 clock, hey, I'm gonna go Crimson Guard. Brim, gonna chase down KOX. Play with the ink drop. KOX1 needs to be careful. It's a lot of damage. Now the Soulbind and the double boom comes out from Brim. It goes with the Sonic Wave. Alacri's there, but it just doesn't matter. He does nothing. Joe Cam, no, he can't flip out of time. Hustler, he's the last one left, but he is probably
There it
trying.
is.
They call the GG. Yes. I
mean-
it was a great try from RR, but Sonic just can't make it work.
Yeah, the Pango last pick for T1 just did everything there for their team. They just completely countered Chen, completely countered Meepo. RR, they were feeling confident
voice in my mind, I slowly drifting by. All the poems I wrote for you, they made me blind, they made me lie. Heard you in the rain, will you always be there? Last thing you said.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban. Dire team ban. Ten seconds remaining. Team ban. Dire team pick.
Back we are. One versus Reality Rift. It is MLP Dota and Drenix Fire. John, welcome. We are here for game number 2. Game number 1, we both agreed the draft from RR was probably going to be amazing. I would dare say they got a bit too excited themselves and tried to make it happen too quick. I mean, they grouped up 3 times in a row at the 7-minute mark and got wiped twice in a row. Game number 2, I think I may have answered my own question, but what do you think they need to do differently?
I think they've got to play a bit more aggressive. If they want to do that, then they need to get better heroes for the job. They just didn't have it. You know, they had a Chen, they had a Witch Doctor, which were nice, but the sustain never kicked off to the point where it was insane. Alacrity's Meepo just never online to the fullest extent, and they got pretty much counterpicked by T1's last pick, so I think a shakeup is needed. They do start off differently. We do see the Clock make an appearance, more than likely the Hustler hero, and he plays a fantastic Clock. We saw Paulson do really well in game 1. This time it's Reality Rift's turn to try to make that work out, so I think there's a lot of value in that Clock. We've seen a lot of teams maximize it in that early aggression. We'll see how Reality Rift build around it. T1, they've still got to make their first pick, but I think, you know, as long as they play the same as they did in game 1, pull that kind of aggression out against Reality Rift, shouldn't have too much of an issue. They made it look easy.
The interesting thing is, though, with that Clockwork pickup is we've been seeing a lot of Grimstroke Clock, right? It hasn't usually just been the Clock. RR, knowing they had that first pick, did actually ban out the Grim. So they didn't want to give the Grim away to T1, which is fair enough because T1 probably would have taken it anyway. So they will be playing that Clockwork without the follow-up Inkswell. Now, I personally don't believe the Clock needs the Inkswell. I think it's just really good as is without the Inkswell, but it just adds on that extra bit of flavor. And so it's not going to be there for RR. T1 start off their draft with the Ember Mirana opening. Seeing a bit more Mirana popping out as of late, and I would have to agree. I think it's a very strong pos 4 right now in the current meta. Of course, the Ember, really not much to say about that job. It's Ember Spirit.
Yeah, it's a flexible pick. It can be pretty much anywhere T1 wants it, although we tend to see it more on IYD, but we've seen Miracle play that, so open pick. Mirana is just, it's Mirana. It finds EXP, it punishes you if you kind of just stay there in one spot, and you have to be aware of how much it brings to the lane, how much harder it is to keep down. Like, the Clockwork doesn't really lock that in. You're gonna have to look for or find better hold for these two heroes. Really slippery start from T1. And RR with Clock, not really the best way of keeping them down.
Oh, they're going back into the Chen now. So, another Chen draft. Okay. I don't particularly think it was... Like, T1 definitely counterpicked really well, right? They drafted really well last game. I still think where RR went wrong is they went for that T1 bot tower as a group way too early. You sent Alacrity down there 2 times in a row without Ethereal Blade being farmed up yet. He didn't go the 4 8th ban build either, so it's not like he was unbelievably tanky or anything. He was just still in that mid farming stage when they started going down to that bot lane, and they got wiped twice.
Yeah.
By which point they were behind by like 4 or 5k net worth, and then it's just too late. I don't think it's such a bad thing to go back to the Chen. I just think they have to time it right. Like, if you look at,
Yeah.
Adroit last, they always group up with the Chen around that. You know, maybe you'll push the bot T1 down early, but you won't push it too much until you hit about 15 minutes into the game, which is when you really feel strong with the Chen, because you have the Hand of God, you're very close, or do already have the mech. You know, you have a lot of things going on there. So we'll see if they change up the timing. T1, however, do go into the Keeper of the Light, and self-explanatory, right? Blinding Light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great wave clear.
It's the Ember Coddle. I think that's the biggest thing. That's a from T1. Like, this gives them a way of controlling the Chen creeps, a way of feeding off those creeps, and it becomes harder to get that push aspect of the Chen out here for RR. So they've got to watch out for that. They've kind of left themselves vulnerable, and I think it was a mix of both in game one, the drafting issue and the playstyle. Both of them were in a factor. We're starting to see T1 respond again. This is really strong against these heroes. Like, the Chen into Mirana just is not value. Mirana will clear that creep you take every time. The shakeups here, though, are they pick up the Jug. That is more than likely going to be our Drew hero, of course. And I do like Jug. It's not quite the most meta hero. And it's a very well balanced hero that gives you push potential, that gives you early fight potential, scales decently into late game. You have to consider the Ag's timing for that one. But in this case, I think you're always going to be worried about a few things. You're going to be worried about Blinding Light, so you're going to have to expend spin. It does give them a good way of dealing with a Will-O-Wisp because of the Jug spin. So you can take it from the fight, but the timing for a Jug is key. And I still one has a stronger opening. It's just a reliance on his Chen timing. Real to rep. You're waiting for the mech, you're waiting for the 6, and it comes too slow. So we'll see whether or not RR rectifies that here.
I don't like the Jug, if I'm frank. I think it takes too long to come online. Like with a Chen, there was other carries. I don't know. It doesn't. I would have preferred maybe the Troll. You know, that could have been a bit faster. I mean, it was bad, but you get my point. Like, the Jug just, I don't know if it's quick enough.
Yeah.
You had the lifesteal last game. Again, you just went too early. You didn't really let him get the armlet up. You didn't let him get the Deso up. You weren't really there yet. I think the Jug is it just takes too much, doesn't it? Like, you build into, obviously, you can go Mask of Madness build.
Yeah.
Game. Right.
For sure.
So you do have some thing with that. The Omni Slash, though, a very long cooldown. You're usually waiting about 2 minutes every time you commit. And the Jug doesn't like to fight without Omni.
No, really doesn't. You have to consider that Omni Slash is going to be easy to dodge here. You've got the Leap, you've got the Ember Spirit, so it's a tricky game. We're just forced into this situation to find a way to deal with that coddle because Will-O-Wisp was going to be a major factor. That's really it. It's up in the air just how much Drew can pull out. It's not going to be an easy game. And it's Legion a lot harder. Just the lane presence of Legion Commander we've seen time and time and again. It applies so much pressure to that opposing safe laner.
Here's the way
So
I
it's
see it.
harder.
If they do get that TA now, if they can run the TA mid, I can see it work.
Yeah. I think you've got the space for it. You do worry about the Ember Spirit matchup, and so Refraction's not effective, but it gives you that momentum. And that's what we were looking for from game one. Alacrity could not set that momentum with his Meepo. Maybe with a TA, you could do it in this game. I think maybe even something like the SF might fit. Oh! This is a mid-Jug or mid-Ursa? That's the real question, and this is so strange. This is just so strange.
It's a
It is very weird. It's... I don't know about this. The timings are so... It's like game one was as weird. You know, you had Chen, you had Witch Doctor, you had Earth Spirit, and you only really had, what, the Meepo and Lifestealer this time? You've got the Jug and Earth, and...
I get that they don't want the Jug to go up against the LC, because the Jug will get destroyed by LC offlane. So the Ursa does kind of take over and does much better up against that Legion Commander. But now you forced your draft into a Jug Ursa, which does nothing.
way I see this working is like a Magnus last pick. You know, just having the empower.
But even then, it's like,
That's
is that enough?
no, it's greedy. It is easy to punish from T1. They're already set to punish this
Remaining.
from T1. I for RR. Their closeout has to be amazing. This is so strange. Just it feels like they've been drafted to a corner.
Yeah,
Just this kind of response.
This is Coddle. This is Jug, Ursa, into Coddle, by the way. So it's you know, you're gonna be having those problems with Blinding Light and Will and Wisp this game if you are those two. Like, yeah, sure, the Jug can spin through it, but I don't know. I don't know what the game plan is here. That this last pick will reveal all of it to us, I'm sure.
5 seconds remaining.
Are you going for another off-lane pick and just going the support channel? Maybe get KOXY something else?
Yeah, I think that's the only way to. Like, this has to be possibly the mid Jugger, mid Ursa. That's really it. You can't throw either one to the off lane. So I don't know how you close this one out. It's tricky. Treant, something they've a few times. It's just hard to slot anything in here. Maybe you just go for a Centaur, so you keep running away until the farm's ready. Force any fights and play it safe. They're really into that reserve time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have to. They're in a corner now. Jug Ursa.
Witch doctor.
Okay, so they are going to run the corner again. Witch Doctor comes back out.
I don't know about this one. It's okay. Let's try to make this right. You've got Healing Ward, you've got Chen,
我是一
you've
个
got
没
Witch
有
Doctor.
感情
Sustain is
的
there,
刷钱机器。
and that's about it. With the way Ursa's played, build Battle Fury into Abyssal, into BKB, so that has to be your primary farming target.
Remaining.
I don't know what you expect your Jug from this. Like, he will be able to deal with the Will-O-Wisp, but that's it. And
Your hero.
they close out perfectly T1. They've got the TA for IYD down mid, more than likely. You've got the Ember Spirit coming out for Miracle. We've seen him play that a couple of times. And 4 of them LC. It's a stable lineup, stable timings. They can fight early on. RR... They have sustain. So they can heal up, they can group up and push pretty strongly. This is a very, very strange draft. T1 is actually Miracle TA, YD Mirana, and a Pulse and Ember. Okay, so it's a support Ember for T1, just shaking it up a bit. I have to say, I think you'd agree with me, T1 has a much more stable draft,
Remaining.
for sure.
Yes. I think we can both agree on that. That's
5
made this obvious by this point. I don't know. Unless T1 really screws this up, it does look kind of like an easy game to me. I will reserve judgment till later. Let's reserve judgment.
Yeah.
Let's see what RR's
Yeah.
game plan is here, because we're missing something clearly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think, again, the potency for me lies in the sustain. You're gonna have to look for Paulson to rush that Spirit Vessel to take that away. And you really have to win your laning phase. This is one thing. You do have to shut down the Ursa and Jug to ensure they don't find farm. If they do find farm, that is too porous. You know, T1... Mirana stops scaling at some point, so you have to play a bit fast. Even the TA has a timing peak. So you can't allow all the farm with this extremely greedy draft. And if you do that, I think you can find T1. RR, play with your sustain. Play slower. You have to find a farm on Drew and Alacrity in this case. And that's an easier said than done job, but if you can do that, then I think you set yourself up for a better mid to late game.
Sure. See how it all pans out. It's game 2 between T1 and Melody Rift. Let's make it a good one. Again, I look forward to see what the game plan is here.
Prepare for
It's
battle.
我是
certainly
一个
different.
没有感情的
Very,
刷
very
钱机
different.
器。
I appreciate different. I don't mind. They are gonna. You talked about this earlier, but they're gonna send Miracle down bot, so they don't want to have to deal with the spin of the jug for the refraction. Just for the sake of it not being burned. Plus, I believe
Have you ever seen a lane like this? TA and Ember Spirit in the same lane as allies. That's not usual. Oh,
That
this
is very
is
true, actually.
this is gonna be this is gonna be quite the game. Oh.
That TA should have a pretty good time up against KOXY, I believe. Like, the side do really shred the creeps up of the Chen.
Yeah,
Dr. Chen draft, like, the lane itself doesn't feel very good. Like, Miracle should have a great old time.
yeah, it should be. I think the one thing for Miracle to worry about is maybe level 1 to 3. They've got pretty decent ways of eating through that refraction. They've got really control. These two heroes, the TA and Emperor, will need level 2 to 3 to really kick it back there.
Hustler gonna spot out Joe Cam, can go for some early castle with the battery assault. You generally love playing against Coddle if you are plus 4 o'clock, I gotta tell you. It is really easy. Half the HP of Joe Cam gets removed just from one battery assault and just a few auto attacks.
Yeah, it's a nice squishy target, and Jokam, I mean, he's gonna have to hold out in his level 1, so Hustler has a lot of room to apply that harass, but this is really what RR has to get done. They need to apply that early pressure and ensure these lanes aren't going to be completely washed out. Drew should have a decent time, and you can at least count on that.
Yeah. Should be definitely having a decent old time up against Foreb's LC. Of course, in the mid lane, it's another weird lane. Jug versus Mirana. So in your dream, playing that core Mirana and see what his idea is here. We saw core Mirana the other day as well, and it wasn't really great. I do love that though. Leap into the healing ward, just take that out straight away, and Alacrity be forced to salve up instead. That is one thing that Jug really does rely on, to not have to spend that extra gold on regen, and rather just be able to secure his regen through the healing ward, but In Your Dream does have that mobility to just take it out.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky for Alacrity to get as much as he'd want from this lane. I think this is something IYD is managing quite well, and you're never going to see that healing ward to full effect because of that Mirana. So Alacrity is going to have to watch out, just find safe farm, and maybe, get your support to stack the jungle. That's one way the Jug can really escalate.
Down to the bot lane, you'll see Paulson there on that support Ember. Be helping out Miracle on the TA, and of course we do have Nuts and KYXY as well. Sort of side pull going on here for the RR boys. I think it's going to be definitely slower farm because you are in the safe lane. So Miracle won't be really able to dip into that jungle every time he doesn't have a creep wave. But overall, he should still be okay, although that Melodict is quite annoying there from the Witch Doctor. The Nuts can really burn through the refraction quite easily. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be that big of a deal for the TA. Miracle should still be fine to just bring some more regen out and work it up that way. And he will get summed up now by Paulson.
Yeah, it's a stable laning phase so far from both sides, just both teams trying to find that farm. It's really down to Reality Rift, I think, in their offlane to try to maximize the early damage and presence of that Chen and the Witch Doctor. They can't allow Miracle and Paulson to find the XP in the farm, and they are trying, it's really not quite enough yet.
See a bit of pressure there onto Forev. Hustler not allowing the creep pull to happen on the side camp, so Forev is being forced to try and CS with an Ursa. It doesn't take Forev whatsoever. Obviously when Hustler's there as well, it can get even more dangerous now, as you can have the battery assault cogs, and Hustler just trying to chase down that courier of Forev does get it. He's gonna be careful. The battery assault does land. Forever could just die to Drew, but he will just overwhelming odds and run away. Again, trying to go for that side pull, but Hustler is being pretty annoying here on that clockwork, just denying it constantly, and we'll just pull the creep wave away again.
Yeah, this is ensuring Drew still has that EXP gain and farm. It hasn't been a very strong lane for Drew. He's at 15 to 1, but you know, it's still coming up there. He's matching Miracle at the least, so both safe laners kind of off to a fairly stable start here.
No, Jokan may actually be dead though. Doesn't have blinding light, he's just going to try and make a run for it, but Drew of course will have the shot that Jokan should definitely be the first blood, and he will be. Drew does get the first kill of the game, and that's going to be a good feeling for RR, knowing that their Pulse 1 just got a huge amount of bonus gold.
Yeah, it's a really strong start for them, and if they continue to maintain these stable lanes, find the safe farm, eventually Drew and even Alacrity will start to kick in. They do have stronger scaling cores, they just have to play it safe, play it slow, and they are certainly doing that quite well.
Alacrity, arrow, he will just dodge it out. Being very, very cautious with that healing ward. Keeping it constantly behind the tier 1 tower, so if In Your Dream does want to leave to try and get it, it is going to cost him a bit of HP. And even then though, with the healing ward, it's not enough. Look how much damage Alacrity's taking. In Your Dream with the illusions, just spamming away, and Alacrity luckily still has a bit of time with that healing ward, but it does eventually die. He has hit that level 6 mark, but doesn't really have much mana. Even if you did, like, the Omni Slash, you can't really commit it. Your Dream can cancel it with the lead. He's gonna start farming, but he will go to the spin, but of course the Marana will just leak away.
Yeah, it's this is one thing with a matchup. Like, you do cancel each other's spell use out, but the Jug has a smaller mana pool and a much more costlier spell and really relative to that, so it's harder to maintain that spin up against the Moon spell.
Ooh, nice arrow from In Your Dream. Paulson's still gonna die here, it's enough. At least he does get the Witch Doctor first before he does go down. Meanwhile, Forev, going back to that top lane, is still struggling quite a lot on this LC. Tusk has just been very, very focused on continually chasing down Forev. He can't really go for the creep pool. The battery assault is making you just walk way too slow. Now he's just in a very, very deep tree line Forev with Hustler. Does eventually get out. But he's lost half the creep wave and now we'll lose the rest of it.
Yeah, and he has 3 heroes going his way.
That's not good. Alacrity does have the Omni, but we'll just use the spin. That'll be enough. A nice pickup once again from Reality Rift. That will give them a 2k net worth advantage in this 7-minute mark. So things are still going very, very well.
Yeah, they're finding the early kills, they're working out this aggression, they're giving space to Drew, they're giving space to Alacrity, and T1 being a bit reckless, they're just not being able to hold that tide back. Again, it will take them a bit more to get Miracle up online, so they've just got to wait it out as well, try to find farm. Their supports should be doing a bit more, but I suppose Paulson just can't as the Ember, and you know, you do have the core Marana, so you're not expecting her to do rotation, so this has stalled T1's power spikes as well.
I'm gonna say KYXY has been doing a great old job up against Miracle. He's getting so many denies off. He's got 13 now on that Chen. Really kept the CS in check. Again, you don't really have the jungle to rotate back to if you're Miracle. Like in the mid lane, you have 2 easy camps to walk to, and you clear those out. But in the safe lane, while you still have 2 camps nearby, it's just so contestable because you don't have a river in between you and the opponent. It's not really safe for Miracle to try and farm because now they moved up on him again with the penitence and the melody. They're pulling someone else in. Here comes In Your Dream, but they do kill off Miracle on time. Now the Hustler should die. Blinding Line will be there, but now the Omni coming in from a Rugby who also was pulled in by KYXY, and now Jokan gets jumped on. In Your Dream is still going after Nuts, but he just uses leaks. He may be in trouble. He has 1 left. Alacrity is going to be on the chase. Your Dream trying to bowl his way to victory. That's going to be popped by the TA. Miracle coming back in now on the TA as well. They do kill off KYXY. Alacrity, gotta be careful. He doesn't have mana for the spin. Paulson's gonna chase him down and Hustle's there as well to try and turn this. Chains up, Rev. Killjoy coming in. He does have the jewel available, but straight out those cogs. Still running. Now Nuts will TP back in. It's just a full-scale brawl here, but it looks like they just want to get out.
Yeah, RR end up actually getting a lot of space out for Drew to farm. So entire fight they do find better trade. They're getting farm up under big cores, and this is actually playing out really nicely for RR. They're hitting an earlier stride. They're getting space on the map, and T1, they have to be a bit careful. It takes farm for your TA to come up, and it takes farm for Mirana to be up and running as well. So I think with the way they've switched these roles on the heroes, it kind of has hurt their time. If you had Mirana support in the core Ember, you might be able to get a bit more early plays, but all of this is stalling out those power spikes.
Well, Miracle, he's gonna try and just take stacks in the camp now. It's the best he can do to catch up. Paulson's gonna take a bit of space there in the mid lane, but Laffy, what is he going for? He's going for the drums into the mantle. Pretty interesting build to go for this game. Not feeling like it's necessary for him to go for that Mask of Madness, which is fair enough. You do have most of the damage set to come out from Drew anyway. Now taking a nice bottom T1 chance for free. Very, very easy with that check. And even though that last bot team fight could have ended up really badly for RR nearing the end of it, the way they're playing this out with the Shen, I do like it. I think the timing is very well done this time.
Yeah, corrected some of those execution issues they were having last time, and it's going much more smoothly for them. They maintain a 1k lead, 4-6, 11 minutes in. T1 have still to wait out Miracle's farm. They still need XP onto Paulson. They are getting some stacks up, so eventually they're going to build up. But as long as you don't have 6 on the Mirana, on the Ember, you're not going to be having that easy initiation tool here, and makes it a lot harder for T1 to try to commit.
Alright, now I'm going to try moving into that mid lane.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
From KOA explains that's going to force out Paulson. With all those scripts, it's not going to take very long. They do dip up the team. Miracle trying to get everyone, but a great hook in from Hustler with the double pump. However, is it enough? The Omni is there, bouncing through the creep wave, but now the Will-O-Wisp flying light has been placed as well. Hustler does end up actually dying to Miracle, but Miracle now in trouble with Drew. He does die. The Drew from Forever is not going to be successful either. Alacrity does end up getting the kill, and now RR. It's an even trade thus far, 3 for 3. Ultimately, they will have to back off. The T1 tower will survive. Really unfortunate there for Alacrity, hitting the Omni Slash as the creep wave was walking in though.
Yeah, he was forced. Was going to be out. Needed to try and get something done. Doesn't pay off. I'm more surprised by the fact that Forev went for the duel. He just ended up giving away free damage towards Alacrity. Not good. The exact hero you really don't want to give that free damage to. And overall, T1 does benefit a bit more. They bounce back that lead to less than 1k, balancing it out just a bit better, but RR, you can still see some of the answers there. With the Jug, they clear out the Will-O-Wisp, and with the Will-O-Wisp, you lack control. So T1, they've got to be careful as to when to commit, and they've really got to be careful with the duel. Looks like they're just gonna go back farm. Miracle is very close to the Desolator. His damage kicks it up way more. Then you just really need the blink to start going around and melt people.
If they can keep making this work, alright. So far, so good. Drums up on Alacrity now. T1, again, just going to have to try and get Miracle back up and online. He's still trying to work towards that Deso, but he's close. Thing is, generally speaking, the Deso timing for TA right now is around 12 minutes. So he's definitely running late.
It's been a for T1. They've really kept a good check on Miracle. That's what they've done quite well, and they're not really giving him much space. They're constantly shoving in all lanes. They've got great press all over. There's not really too much safe areas for Miracle to take. You take a look at like his battle fury timing's all there. Just lacking that mithril hammer, and we all know what happens when the Ursa hits that battle fury. Their damage shoots up, they
Dire structures are fortified.
you start to do a lot more.
Good thing. Alright. The shot once again. They want that tier 1 tower. Near creeps there for KYXY. Mecha. So many auras going on right now for RR. Illuminate's gonna be a little frustrating, but nothing they can't deal with. Asma, then on in your dream. Push back as well. Now the Omni should be enough. It will be. In your dream does die, but that is a lot of damage from the overwhelming gods coming up for forever. They are going to on Jokan instead. Miracle trying to deal with Hustle on the clock, but it will be too late. The T1 comes to go down, and now even Polisan on that Ember. Be careful how much damage he does take from KYXY. Back off. And RR, they got what they came for. It's time for them to back off as well.
Yeah, this is ridiculous just how much that sustain from RR is, and we talk about hitting one strong points, but when you have the healing ward, when you have the voodoo restoration, you regen way too much, so they can't actually stop the push.
Structures are fortified. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
One TC tower, not going to be long for this world. Definitely ain't last for long.
There's just no damage, like the crabs aren't dying even with a fourth. Alacrity's back to full HP, and they have sustained for days, this lineup.
Well, they're not in tier 3s. Alright, I love it. I mean, they've only got a 1k net worth lead, but why not? You know, they just can't defend right now. They will be forced to TP down and eventually do back off.
Yeah, this is tricky. Miracle is trying to sneak a Roche by himself. Does have the DD, but the moment R has an inkling that it's happening, it's going to really ease the punish Miracle.
They don't know yet. Still going for it. Jokan now going to shot there with Forever as well. They're going to speed things up. It should make it a little more obvious that they are around that Roshan, and well, it's going to be too late anyway. So Miracle with the Aegis, getting very close to that blink timing as well. He's slowly but surely getting back to where he should be. RR maybe really can't afford to slow down here up against that TA. Trying to go for that tier 2 mid tower. You have that Omni back up. Your Dream meanwhile pushing in that top tower, so just trying to force them back, but they aren't falling for it. They're just going to try and force mid. Got in. He should be there onto Perez. Now he's just surrounded by Polisan. Will die straight away. Perez also goes down. Oh boy. All Jokan can do is blinding light and illuminate. But look at this, RR, they're going down to the bot lane again. They're gonna try for that tier 3 tower. And in all honesty, I don't think they can stop them. They're gonna try. But I think it's too late. Arrow does get the outfit to leave.
There's not
There's
not enough damage to clear out the creep wave. It's the sustain. Nothing's dying.
Miracle. Will-O-Wisp gonna be there. Arrow now to fight through as well. He's going to everybody. Now jumping in, but he gets Omni straight away. Still alive, however. In your dream, jumping in on those guys as well. They do kill off nuts. Now Miracle's gonna try. Blinding light there to try to help his TA out. It is not helping though. He is gonna lose the Aegis. from Hustler. That's the only thing Miracle needs. Brett now has this one around, but there's the Cox coming up. Still, the Cox should be dead and does die. They punish anyone else. Miracle comes through. Arrow getting ready to cut that. Miracle staying in the middle. Now Drew coming out as John. They do find him, but Miracle does die, and so does Forever. Now the death will come. Being channeled off away. In Your Dream is still dying to it. He will go down. Paulson's the only man. He back. Run. The coconut connects. Fools keep running out.
Ooh.
They kept.
Oh.
It's 50 more killed away.
That's it's getting tricky for T1. They bled a lot of early ground. You're not quite set up yet on Miracle. Does have the blink though, so you can maybe blink in and get some damage out. I'd say the BKB is the next priority for that TA. You look at Paulson, it's not quite ready yet. Is he going for the Meteor Hammer? Is that the build-up?
Paulson?
Yeah, it is a Meteor Hammer.
Again?
Yep, is going that build, and I mean that gives him a little bit from the chains, so it can be useful, but it's the sustain from all that has me worried. They've been allowed to really just keep regenning up. The creep wave is just nearly impossible to kill off with the damage you have right now in Miracle. You definitely need a fast Spirit Vessel, but Paulson's the one with the urn. And again, he's finishing up that Meteor Hammer first, so the regen's always going to be good for RR, at least until that item comes out. And you look at KYXY, he actually does have the Guardian Greaves up on that 10. So even more regen coming out on RR, even more Rs coming into play here. And T1 need to find an answer. You look at Forev, does have Blade Mail, does not quite have the blink. So it's going to be trickier for him to find a good duel to isolate some of these bigger heroes. And that started to be key because the Will-O-Wisp is not cutting it. Because they're a dog who can spin. Yeah, it's because of the dog. It spins right through. So they are getting value here, RR, and they're feeling confident. And I like that. They know they have to run draft down, but they have leeway towards late game as well because they've got nurse.
Drew is getting very close to that SNY now. He wants to be able to keep fighting with his team, have that added status with his Alright, down to the bot lane. Joker will TP, but possibly not. We have Remnants and Will. Nice forward creep wave post, making sure he can't burst them down with the Remnants. That'll actually be enough for him to get that Meteor Hammer anyways. That should allow him to deep push a bit as well with that Meteor Hammer against the Chen creeps. Can they defend them?
Bit tricky. You do have.
Again, and now coming out. That dude is not great. Just trying to hold the drop back. Will-O-Wisp being dropped. Miracle and Forever both dead. Now through on the Joe Cam. It's still hard to defend this. They're trying to just get through the creeps that kept by XY while he's now being committed. Joe Cam and step up back to deal with some flavor. Now that Billy Barrett does finally go down, Olsen does land on some creeps, but ultimately won't do much.
Yeah, and that's a free high ground. 22 minutes in for RR. They get to go down to mid. They can't take anything else because the Doctor Tower is here, but this gives them a pretty strong lead. 5k advantage now, and a lot of momentum behind them. They're just gonna keep going.
Maybe Hammer again, the late game. Lose that Q2, not stopping. Great move, but again, straight to Miracle. Doesn't get the pushback though. Could be bad. They get in on that Q2. Hammer's not keeping Hustler alive. He will survive. Now he's being chased up. He might go down. No, Drew cannot get there. But it doesn't matter. You've got a TA down for 136 seconds. There's just seemingly no way to defend. They'll keep picking up running line. Arrows killing off creeps from KYXY. Just slowly slowing things down, and now that actually that was a lot of creeps going down. KYXY lost his whole army. He needs to get more creeps back. Alright, are they done? I think they are. They'll need to hire some more troops and come back in.
Yeah, I think they're still gonna be happy though. They've been forcing T1 to play tag, and again you're seeing the insane durability of RR's draft. They just don't lose HP. They can't be punished because there's nothing to stop that. And Nuts is the one building the Crimson Guard on the Witch Doctor, so he's had that space. It's gonna be hard to actually burst even the plus 5 Witch Doctor.
I love that. I just love the fact that they just told Nuts, like, look, if you've got the goal, just buy the Crimson Guard.
Oh man.
I like
It's
it.
getting a bit silly. It is great. It is great. Like, Nuts is gonna be tanking a lot more than you'd expect with a Vanguard first, of course. So RR, they're starting to really kick it up now. 24 minutes in, 11 to 21, 6k advantage. You look at the plus, Mike, 98% chance for RR to win.
That's a big possibility. I don't disagree. Miracle is still really struggling on that TA. He's currently 1-5. Very un-Miracle-like, to say the least. Yolni is going to be now up on your range, so it has a bit more weight clear. Arrows again flying through, only hits a
Look at that shield.
It's pretty hard to get through, John. I went to school. Media hammer, when you make it apply through, the creeps are dying. But now the death ward's flying out. Won't really take for anything. That's a big one. They get the win now. Flying line. Omni is there with the duel. Hardcore tries to hold him, but Easy has taken out the Lapri now. Oh boy, that is not good news for RR.
Ooh, yeah, they bled out like 3-4k there to the way of T1. T1 gonna be very pleased with how that initiation went. I think the moment you lose the healing ward in that case, and IYD is fantastic in targeting it, you lose a lot of that sustain with a combo. The Witch Doctor alone's not enough. They got caught up in a big Will-O-Wisp, and they didn't have the spin ready on their jug. So they got punished hard. T1 does find an opening, and they go straight to Roshi.
Yeah, not to mention they also found K1X by Courier. They had the pipe recipe on it.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, so we've had that pipe up for another 2.5 minutes now.
Invisibility.
It's not like they've lost the lead per se, but Dota Plus is starting to swing back to Team unsurprisingly, as Dota Plus tends to do it.
Yeah. You've got a BKB in Miracle, so he can stand and fight a lot better than he used to. Not much control just yet to go through that one. So our TA is starting to be able to consistently dish that damage out. You look at Paulson, he's working towards the act. So our Ember Spirit is finally going to have a lot more presence with that item. Still lacks about 2k, 1.8k left until that's up, and once that's up, I think T1 will really start to be harder to deal with. I think RR has to be very careful with their push. They have to really time Alacrity's usage of Blade Fury a lot better, because it's the Will-O-Wisp that messes it up.
Top lane gonna be smart. Being pushed in there from In Your Dream, they will glyph. Team 1 slowly taking control of this game back their way. They're gonna need to deal with this. They will show up through. They're on the Ursa. They want to push out that top lane, but it's gonna be a while now. And your Dream's not really backing off either. He just keeps going back into that wave, cleaning it up. It's one of those games as well where you wouldn't really mind seeing a Dragon Scepter build on in your Dream. The double Starfall is quite potent, especially up against the Chen. It's not like he really needs so much now for Mjolnir. You get my point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value for that. As you mentioned, clearing out these creep waves is important. Like, they have been doing good damage, but more is always nice. So just having that on IYD would be great, but IYD is going for the right-click build. So he's going into the butterfly first. You're not seeing any sort of build-up into like an MKB here. Alacrity picks up the Fusel, is building the Ags next. He just wants that mini slash to come out just to be able to maintain his presence in fights outside of the Omni, which is the tendency. No, he switches it out. He wants the Basher. Retro just opting for control first before having to rely on the mini slash, I guess. That's one way to get it done as well. And you see the same thing coming out from Drew. Abyssal is going to be up, although.
But try to hold them. I'm just going to remnant TP out of it. T1 just biding their time. Titanic now completed. On to Drew, plenty of life still available now on the Ursa. Probably does really want to bash it though. But really get that lockdown off.
Yeah. One thing T1's lacking is really just a Spirit Vessel. They have no way of mitigating these heals out, and so all this is still great out. IYD.
They go down now. Still has 2 big charges. They do nothing, but that gets pushed off, and your dream is fine to just get out. And too much Shadow, they do have curve potential. Drew has shown his face, however, they do not want to fight for the other right now. They do actually end up killing off Nuxler straight away, and now Onslaught is going to be a problem at all. Trying to survive, and the blood comes in straight into forward, but now that Wisp has been dropped, this was foul, so no miracle. He is dropping, with the melodies now being placed on him and the Death Ward, but he has the Aegis. Nux needs to back off there with the rest of his team. Onslaught does buy back, so they're going to go for the fight. The Pulsar will just change them up and run off. Hook shot again, on point. Onslaught's going to land onto that PA. Miracle is dead. 70 seconds without buyback. It's another opening.
That's massive.
For the dire side.
That's really massive. You need Miracle to do the damage. Like, sure, you still have your control up and running, but Miracle is your right click right now. You're not seeing the same damage out from Paulson, and IYD can dish some out, not as bursty as that TA, so this is going to be really big for RR to get that high ground push, and they're just going to go for it.
Yeah, about that time. Fortify going to be there. They're going to tank through the Fortify. Now the repair kit also there for T1. Not going to be easy to get through, but they are slowly making their way through it. All the creep army of KYXY has essentially been reduced to rubble. And they're going to leave the racks exposed. That repair kit is just so infuriating to try and get through. And now in your dream, does jump on Hustler. Drew will turn around onto the Mirana, but you don't have a basher. So you can't really lock them down. It's proving to be a problem here with Drew. You can't really kill off in your dream when he leaps away like that.
Yeah, and you do have the butterfly up on IYD now. So he's got additional durability with the evasion. Again, you don't have any sort of MKB buildup coming out just yet on our cores on RR side. So it's going to be a lot harder to deal with his Mirana if you do let IYD just dish that damage out.
Arrow does connect there onto Alacrity. He'll be just fine. Still working towards that Aghanim Scepter, but they may feel like they're pressured to try and go high ground again. You wouldn't quite blame them for just trying to secure the Ags before they do go. But there is almost a sense of them running out of time now. The Ags even comes up on Polison.
Yeah, it's more presence from our Ember Spirit. He's just going to be able to continuously be disruptive. He has been breaking up RR's fights a fair bit, kind of isolating certain key targets. So this can help them out, although there is a smoke from RR. Looks like they might want to sneak up on the high ground.
Allies disappear.
Basher is there from the Ursa now. He's going to bring it out with the courier. He's going to try and go in with that. The hammer, the Ursa hustler, arrow for what he's done it for a long time. Now this duel is not going to be a win. They will lose again. The Rapid takes that one. Now Miracle trying to run off a great hook set out the hustler. Losing his drop. It doesn't matter though. He does go down. But who by that? Now in your dream, trying to lead the way. So many heals up for KYXY. Hustler still alive. Also, kill him off, just can't. He'll run out of it, the clockwork. Now perhaps the RR do need to get out. And the buyback has come. And it's going to be a 5v2 situation left over. They just can't do the second wave of T1. That'll be the fourth going down. The only person to spin TP is Alacrity.
Yeah, that's a bit reckless from RR. I think seeing Drew turn around, he popped a Satanic, but he was hitting an LC with Blade Mail. About 1.5k on the Blade Mail itself, and that cleaned him up. So they forced the buybacks out RR, but T1 still stand the game. They find some good kills. They are dealing that punishment out. And RR has to be really careful. They've lost the lead. It is on T1's side. It's not massive. It's 3k advantage. But this is giving T1 access to the third Roche with the Ag's blessing as well. So this is going to be big. RR, they can't allow this one to go for free.
They can't. Easy road time to be taken. Of course, no contest for them as RR were still just within their base, just respawning up. Getting close to that point now with Miracle, he does have the pistols up going for the day. Listen. Oh, he's got an Aghanim set. The blessing.
Yeah, got it from the Roche. Does go to him instead. So he has all the mobility in the world. If you go for a push, as long as Miracle has his traps in the right spot, he can go for the split. So it makes it a lot riskier for RR to spend an extended amount of time in that high ground.
I can see that. It's going to be a problem for RR for sure. Ags is up on Alacrity. Does have the sweep slash up now. Still time a ticking. Even In Your Dream's going to have the MKB up, and that's going to be a real big problem. It's just so much burst damage from In Your Dream. T1, I'm confident now, will start a push of their own with a 10k net worth lead. Well, DOTA Plus, John, it is not very happy. Been all over the place, and now back up to 30%, 36% chance of T1 to this game.
Yeah, I think in this case RR has to wait for item pickups to come out now. You look at Drew, he is saving up for the MKB. You're gonna need that to eat through IYD, huh?
Where's Drew's back? In Your Dream gonna leap out, I'll be wasted.
Nah, that was just the Swift Slash, so they still have the full Omni, at least. Not quite as bad, but I think Drew actually tossed the Basher out for the Satanic first, so he doesn't have one. He's going for the MKB next, just to deal with IYD.
In Your Dream's being really annoying with these arrows. He keeps connecting the Chen creeps. That was the dominating one, so he got 200 gold out of that. I believe he's got the full MKB coming out now on In Your Dream. There it is. KB now up on the Mirana.
Yeah, RR now, they're forced back into their high ground. A 13k deficit. There's a lot to make up for here. I think Drew not having the Basher has hurt him. He's just not able to get the control, not able to get the lockdown, and again, this is one glaring weakness of their draft. They don't have the best teamfight control, whereas T1 does have a lot more. So you want to be able to build that up, but, you know, he does need MKB for the Mirana and for the Blinding Light, just to not deal with that. Shoving that flame. Really fast push with how far Miracle is.
Yeah, they do it quick. gonna be very cautious with this. They don't want to risk giving the giving away back onto that high ground of the Radiant side. Good flash from Alacrity, gonna be on those movements of in your dream. Miracle. Really backing off here on the TA. Game this. But I guess there is plenty of time for that to be used, and now even an Mentor Horn being dropped here for Miracle. Smoke up though, RR. Reduce for that breath, he does blink away. Now the arrow connects with the hustle, so here we go again. Frames that clock. This is going to be a strike from Alacrity. Miracle jumping in. He's in a bit of trouble right now, but the Will-O-Wisp again being dropped at the blinding line. Alacrity might be the one in trouble. He gets killed up. They can't heal him in time. And Nusk also dies. If that makes that a 4-1, it could be... Oh no!
Oh man. Whew. RR. RR. They were making this draft work. You know, it's not a draft we really had too much faith in, but they were making the push work, and a couple of hasty fights, it cost them in T1 take a nice clean 2-0.